So, I've traveled pretty much all over the world. And one of the things that always comes up is driving. Driving in a foreign country, it's always scary. I've driven everywhere from, the Autobahn to Asia to the Middle East, all over the United States. I've been to all continental states. I've been to Alaska. Haven't been to Hawaii yet. But my point is I've traveled pretty extensively. And the two things that always come up is food and driving, because they're kind of constants everywhere. So, the couple of, the three worst places I've ever driven are the Middle East, the DC area into Baltimore, and Salt Lake City. By far, those are the three worst. So, I kind of was thinking about that. I'm like, why is that? So, the best way to describe the Middle East and how they drive there is inshallah, which is Arabic for God willing, give or take. So basically, they dare you to kill them driving into traffic. There's no merge lanes as much as it's just, Russian roulette traffic edition. And it's absolutely crazy. And it's not dissimilar to traffic in Salt Lake City. I mean, Salt Lake City, you've got 4 or 5 lanes of traffic. It's a fairly large city. And there's a lot of traffic that goes through there. But one thing you will never find in Salt Lake City, ever, is a traffic jam. And the reason why is, even though there's a bajillion cars on the road, everyone is doing 20 miles over the speed limit. And again, it's Russian roulette traffic. Might as well die. And I think if you were to ask people from those areas, they're so sure of their faith, both Mormon and Islam in this case, that they'd tell you, I don't care if I die. But I feel like there's something to be said of a faith or a religion where you want to die, where you're so miserable with living and so waiting for the good part to start in the next world, where you're like, can't wait, might as well take some risks. Whatever. Burning to death and being crushed. Sounds like a good time. Nothing else better going on. I feel like the more oppressive the religion is, the worse the drivers are. And I've really been trying to think about this from a psychological standpoint, because DC is by far the worst traffic. And I think part of that is that DC doesn't have highway systems that go over the city because, reasons for, what do you want to call it? Safety reasons. You don't want high rises where people could be shooters or whatever. And, there's government officials in DC, so that makes sense to me. And you also have to figure that, say what you want about driving systems in different parts of the country, whether it be California or New York or the South or wherever, there's a different kind of driving style to each one of those places. The joke for DC is that nobody is from DC. It's people who go there for government work. It's people who go there to be representatives or to work for representatives or whatever the case may be. So they're traveling to DC from wherever they're from, and they're bringing the driving style from wherever they're from with them. So you now have 50 different states with 50 different driving styles trying to merge, and nobody understands what anyone else is doing. It's not that they hate each other, it's not that there's a lot of wrecks there. Not to mention, it's also people from all over the world also congregate to there. So, government jobs, don't care and don't discriminate, so they come there. So you get these weird people from North Africa who are doing U-turns and 5-point turns in the middle of traffic, and you're like, what on earth? And then people the taxis are parking their cars, their taxis in the middle of this. It's a mess. DC traffic is unique. And then it's also weird because you have Baltimore, like right above it. And like Baltimore is weird because it's like hateful, spiteful nihilism hitting you in the face. Like you'll be like Baltimore, which I like to refer to as Balta-less, is weird in the sense that like it always smells like rotten fish because it's right by the bay, and burning rubber because that's the thing you do there. Like you don't take your old beat up car to the pound or wherever, like to the scrapyard. No, you go on the highway, drive off to the curb, and set it on fire because that's a thing they do there. Like you'll just be driving along and you're like, oh, there's a car on fire. Cool. That's a thing. So like Baltimore being kind of crazy driving with all the bad traffic from DC because it's, you know, the Beltway. But like there's a nihilism, I hate myself for living in Baltimore-ness that exists there. And I don't know how to describe that because like nowhere else I've ever lived, big city or otherwise, has that like, oh, factor that Baltimore does, where like everyone there hates living there, but they tell you that they love living there while they actively do things to make it worse. They're like, you know, Maryland or Baltimore County or the county or like upstate or wherever that's not real living. You got to get Baltimore living, all the thing. But nothing there is good, and everyone there hates their life. You know, so there's like this nihilism of I live in a nihilistic place. And I feel like Salt Lake City and the Middle East have very similar vibes where they all want to tell you how happy they are and how many wonderful things their religion has done for them while they're actively the angriest people behind the wheel ever. And they're angry and they're like trying to commit seppuku on the fucking roadways because of how happy they are. Not miserable at all. Something I've noticed